Hi, and welcome back to Purple Color Life. In today's video, we're doing an oil change on the Sport Nautique boat. Now, it has been 2 summers since we had the boat out. If you watched the channel last year, you saw it was the summer of Olive. We bought a pontoon boat so that Olive could go on the boat with us because she can't go on the Nautique with us. She was having a really rough summer last year. She's still with us this year, which we are thankful for every single day. This year, we're going to take the pontoon boat and the ski boat out when we go camping at the lake. So we'll have the pontoon boat for someone to hang out on with Olive, and the ski boat so we can do some water skiing and wakeboarding. But since it's been sitting here in the building for 2 years, it's time for an oil change, and it was a good time to make a change when it comes to the oil. This Nautique boat has the Pleasure Craft Marine PCM 351 5.8 liter Ford engine in it. It's a great engine. It's actually the same engine that's in our Bronco. So when it came time for an oil change, and I had just done the Amsoil oil in the Ford Ranger, my daily driver, I thought this would be a great oil for in the boat. This is the Amsoil 100% synthetic Z-Rod. What that means, it's got high zinc in it, and it's perfect for classic and high performance engines. This 1994 Nautique boat with a 351 is both classic and high performance. I've done a step-by-step of this oil change before. I'll put a link to that video up above. In the past, I've always used conventional oil, but the nice thing about this Z-Rod oil, if we take a look at the back of it, it says guaranteed protection for 5,000 miles or 2 years, whichever comes first. Now, when it comes to boats, you don't put a whole lot of miles on them in the water, but it's great to have an oil that'll last for 2 years. So I'll put this in the start of this summer. We'll boat all summer long. I'll let it sit through the winter, and then next spring I'll decide whether I want to change that oil or leave it in there once I take a look at it. But the nice thing is I know it's good to be in here for the summer in a high performance engine, and then for storage in the winter. Since this is a boat that hates ethanol, we only use the recreational ethanol-free gasoline we get at the marina. It's a little bit expensive, but that recreational fuel is the only type of ethanol-free gas that doesn't cause us problems in this 351 that has the ProTec ignition system in it. These ignition systems are very picky, so I've gone ahead and picked up some Amsoil Quick Shot gasoline treatment and stabilizer. Fights ethanol problems. I figured that can't hurt to throw in the tank with the fresh fuel. Boating is one of those things where everybody enjoys going out. Everybody wants to go out on the boat with you, but when it comes to stuff like this, you usually end up alone doing the oil changes by yourself because people don't realize it takes a lot of maintenance and a lot of upkeep to keep a boat like this in service. So here I am in the building by myself doing this oil change. We're going to walk you step by step through it, changing the oil by yourself with this boat. I like to make sure I have all the tools ready so I'm not making a million trips into the garage. Got a couple rags here, my rubber gloves, the oil. I got an extra quart. The boat takes 5 quarts, including the filter. I got a 6th to keep here in the boat. I've got a light. I've got a box of bags because when I take the oil filter off, we'll want a bag to throw it in. I've got a 9/16 open-ended wrench and my crescent wrench. I also keep this little rope. I'll show you how I use it to hold the clamshell up. Now, it's been so long since I've done this, I don't remember if I used both pieces or not. But I want to tilt the clamshell back, and instead of using the prop rod, which I've found falls off pretty easily, we are going to slip this through here. It'll hold the handle of the clamshell, and I'm going to wrap it around the ski hold. So let me show you what that looks like. Here is that PCM 5.8 liter high output ProBoss engine. It does have the ProTec ignition, which can be problematic. We've had it fixed a couple times. It's got the InvertiFlow exhaust system, but the 5.8 liter engine, just like we have in the Bronco, is one of my favorites. I had a Nautique boat before this that had the same engine but the GT40 heads. That does make a big difference, as well as fuel injection. This boat's a little bit older, 1994. Did not have those features, but this is still a great engine. Lots of horsepower, tons of torque. So this is actually the oil drain hose, and it's up over the engine and attached right here to the lifting lug. So I'm going to disconnect that. And then I'll feed it down through underneath the engine out the drain plug hole, which is right there. Right there. I'm going to give that hose a nice straight shot down through. There you can see where it goes out. Go ahead and take the cap off here so that the oil drains out a little easier. Most of the time in a vehicle I run it a little bit first before I drain the oil. I have not run the boat engine first, so it'll take a while to drain out. If you've never seen the bottom of a ski boat before, those shark fins you see sticking down are for tracking the boat straight ahead. So when you've got a skier behind you pulling left and right, slaloming, in a lot of boats it'll actually twist the boat around. Those tracking scags or fins keep the Nautique boat going straight so that the skier can't pull it side to side. You can see they're right down, straight down the center, the hull of the boat. And you can see my oil line from the engine's down here. That's where we'll be draining the oil. Why I have the 2 wrenches, I've got the 9/16 to hold this portion of the hose and the crescent wrench to unscrew the cap here for the oil drain. It's usually not on super tight, but you don't want to lose it. So you can see how I've got the hose routed here so it's constantly going downhill. And the oil will just start draining as soon as I pull the cap off. You can see that oil doesn't look too bad. It's still got plenty of life in it as far as the color of it. But since it's been in the boat here for 2 years, it's a good idea to dump it out. This was just regular conventional. This was T4 Rotella oil. And that's why I can't trust it 2 years later here in the boat to protect that PCM engine. I'm going to let that drain out. It's going to take quite a while because the oil is cold, the engine hasn't been running, and it has to drain out this small hose. We'll check back in a couple minutes. Okay, so that you're aware, for time, the draining portion of the oil took about 40 minutes to drain out. Now I had another project to work on. I'm currently replacing the license plate bracket on the back of the boat trailer. It had rusted apart and broken off, so I was working on that in the meantime. But if you're doing this oil change, find something else to do for about 40 minutes while that oil drains. So here's what I've been working on. There's the old bracket that was rusted. There's the new bracket that I just bolted on and wired the light up to. This is what the prop on the back of an inboard boat looks like. You can see there's a rudder behind it. The prop does not move left to right like on an outboard engine or an inboard outboard. That prop stays stationary. The rudder moving behind it is what steers the boat. That's why you can steer in an inboard boat so quickly, and it's got great maneuverability. But at low speeds, like going into the dock, it's difficult because your steering is all behind the propeller. Here's the oil filter that we need to remove. It should just be able to be turned by hand. Let's see if I can get it started. I hope. Alright, let me talk you through this before we do it. I've brought a wrench out now to get this loosened up. So I'm just going to crack it loose. Then I'm going to use a bag, wrap it all the way around it, and take the filter off that way so that I can capture the oil in the filter in the bag. But I'm also going to put a bag down here underneath and a rag so that any oil that drips gets in on that, because we'd rather not have that get mixed in with water down here in the hull later in the future and get pushed out the bilge pump. That's all we needed, was just to loosen it so that we can turn it by hand. Not quite to that point yet though. Okay. We'll put our bag all the way around it. This is where it also helps to have another person, because that person could grab the bag from me and set it out on the floor. Here's our new Amsoil filter, EA015. Just going to pour a tiny bit of the new oil onto the top, and then use that on my fingertip on the gasket. Now I'll note here in the video, because this is partially how I keep track of oil changes. This is June 14th, 2024. That should be tight enough. Okay, now we are to the easy part, the oil in. I said this in a previous video, I'll state it again. The cleanliness of your funnel is very important, because that's going straight into the engine. So if you've got dust and dirt in the funnel that you're pouring your oil into, that dust and dirt's going straight into the engine before it even gets filtered. 1 quart down, 4 to go. Now we will want to check our oil level after about 3. And then we'll check it after 4. The 5th one actually goes mostly into the oil filter, so we won't notice that one go in until after we pump the oil through. I like seeing it spin down through there. I'm glad to be using this Z-Rod with the ZINC in this old 1994 351 engine. I think it's a good idea. You can see I ran that oil drain line back up here, attached it to this motor mount. In case you're wondering what this is the ski pylon that we hook the rope onto for our skiers and wakeboarders. We also have a high fly pole that extends up to make that a much taller pole for wakeboarders. We're reading a little bit high because it hasn't gone through the filter yet. So we're going to take this extra quart of oil with us out on the lake, and if we need to add oil, we can. Took a little bit of work to get the old rusted bolts off of the license plate, but we got the license plate back on. New stainless hardware. There'll be a new, I rewired that light for the new plate holder, so we should be in good shape there. So that oil change in the Nautique does take some time, because it takes a long time for that oil to drain through that small hose. But it's a pretty easy process, just something that's nice to be able to do once a year and not more times than that. If you are interested in some Amsoil like this, I'll put a link down in the description. You can talk to Mark from Clovis. That's who I got the oil from for this boat and the filter. So he's really knowledgeable. He can help you out with whatever you need. And it seems like a good solution for a boat that's going to be run hard in the summertime that then sit through the winter time. I've got to still put that drain plug in and do some cleanup here. We're going to take the boat out tomorrow. It's supposed to be a hot day. So I'm going to get back at that. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, please give us a big thumbs up down below. Leave those comments, and we'll hopefully see you again the next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. In a future project, I need to get this teak re-oiled. I used to put multiple coats on it every summer. You can see from sitting through the winter time, it really needs some coats on it, so that's a good summer project. If anybody has a preferred teak oil they like to use on these old wooden teaks, leave a comment down below. I'd appreciate it. I have in the past used the McGuire's teak oil. It looks nice when you first put it on, but it doesn't seem to last very long.